All right. This is Tanyag. We're going to be doing a live, not a live, but a video on how to work a room. Go from wallflower to Rainmaker, 5 key strategies. This was a presentation I gave out twice, two at the Town Point Club, one last year to about 30 people, and one this year with about 6 people. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go over all this information and talk about it. And you can use this as a guide going forward for the future. So my purpose today is to give you mass value and show you how I can help you further. Did you know that over 90% of adults self-identify themselves as shy, especially in the room of strangers? When I started doing business for almost 20 plus years ago, I had done some personality tests, and I realized I was an introvert. I am an INFP, and what we're good at is we don't like people. We don't like talking to them. We think people are idiots, and this is about 20 years ago. And we get our energy by being alone. So when we go to network events, we're pretty intimidating. So when I started my business, back in the days, I did multiple things before I did BNI and before I did this. I was shy. I mean, really, really shy. I prefer to be by myself, very small group of friends. And then when I had to go out and network, so I had to do this part, and it was very difficult. It took me a couple years just to get any traction, but then I started realizing that working a room is a skill that you can learn. It's an art in one way. It's a skill because there's certain fundamentals you have to learn and do, and there's an art because you can do it the way you want to do and how you present it. So, and when I was doing research on this presentation, then when I was reading the book How to Work a Room, it says millionaires have one trait besides having $1 million, in their bank account. They have a huge Rolodex and have a unique trait to spot quality contacts. They can look in the room and look who are people who are spot quality contact. And that means quality basically means people have influence, people who have respect for their peers, they're influencers in different industries. They just not only have a big Rolodex, but they can spot it and develop a relationship. And the reason I share this is because in today's market, if you have to go out there and network, if you're an introvert, it's really difficult. So you just have to know how to work a room. And then if you're an extrovert, are you working the room very effectively? So this whole workshop is all really designed around helping you do that. And here's the problem. Now, if you already know you're shy, how do I connect? I know I need to connect, but how do I do it? I remember my first networking event. I went to there, and I was not dressing. I was dressing khakis, t-shirt, and I was out there. I walked in there in a room. It was a chamber event, and I was already nervous. I didn't know how to talk to. I didn't understand about people grouping up in groups, 2s and 3s. I remember I was a wallflower. I just sat in the wall, got a drink, sit with the food. And plus I'm Asian. There's not many Asians out there networking, so it was really, really awkward. Do I talk to somebody older? Do I talk to somebody younger? Do I talk to somebody my age? It was really, really hard. I think when I went to a networking event, I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know how to approach people. It was very difficult. Then, in today's market, I see people who are not shy, and when I see how are they working the room effectively, I see them not shy, and they go around their room and say, "Hey, my name is so and so. Here's my card. Here's so and so. Here's my card. Here's my card." They walk around the room, just handing out their card to people, or they're walking around the room, and they're, "Hey, my name is Bob. I do this, this, and that," and they go right into the sales pitch. The introvert, when I've seen some introverts, and I've done this before, when we walk around, maybe we walk to 2 or 3 people, and we just ask their card. We don't even get in a conversation with them because we just don't know how to have a conversation. We're not good in small talk. Really good in talk when there's an interest that we are excited about. We don't know how to create that interest. So everybody close your eyes. What if you can make connections to build a lifetime of friendship? Now I've realized with this how to work a room, I have some relationships that are not clients of mine I keep in touch with because you want to keep in touch. Relationships is what makes the world go around. And, one of the hardest things is, how to connect with them and maintain it. But if you can't connect, you can't maintain it. And what if these relationships can make you profitable relationships? How these connections can be profitable to your business or life in general. And what if you could connect anywhere, anytime, and build your network. I really believe this workshop that I'm conducting is very powerful because you can go anywhere, you can be on an air, going to the airport. You can be at a fundraiser. You can be at your son's baseball game, your daughter's ballet. I mean, you're just meeting people and connecting with them. It's amazing. So we're going to go to how to work a room, go from wallflower to Rainmaker, 5 key strategies. The first strategy is do your research. So one of the hardest things in working a room, you really got to understand the dynamics, the logistics of a room. Is it a mixer? Is it a trade show? Is it a seminar? Is it a workshop, social, and fundraiser? Each of those different types of rooms have pros and cons. And another thing, if you've been to the event every year, you can somewhat have a good understanding of how to work a room. Like, for example, like when we go to the trade shows, I always tell people the best thing to do is be a vendor, be a vendor of a trade show, not only to meet the people who come to the trade show, but meet the other vendors. I knew a gentleman who actually would go to trade shows, and his strategy, he knew he'd get a list of all the vendors, and he purposely, they'd be early, and he'd go to the vendors he wanted to meet first, and then he'd go, after he'd take the list, he divided into 3 tiers, tier 1, tier 2, and 3. Which are the vendors he wanted to go talk to? He'd go talk to the tier 1, tier 2, and 3. He knew how to work what he wanted to do. Now, the interesting thing is some rooms are very organized, where they have, I call, connected points or facilitated points. Some are not. So you just have to know, as I always tell people, keep a journal. If you are working a room, what are good rooms to work for that are beneficial? What are some, like if you go to an event, if you go to a chamber event and somebody's speaking, it's really hard to network in that room early because everybody's trying to sign up, this and that. There might be some strategies that you can do beforehand, but if you're sitting across the table, maybe the only thing you can do is connect to the right or the left. It just all depends on, you just being aware of your surroundings, what the room is, what's not. And I encourage you to develop a plan on how to work on it. Like, for example, I go to a couple of network events, and I think about, okay, how am I going to work this room? What's the pros and cons? What all I have to do to be successful? And a lot of times what I do is my goal and objective is always get 2 or 3 cards, make 2 or 3 great conversations with people so I can follow up and develop a relationship. Not go around the room and talk to 20 people and can't remember what did I say to the 20, but pick a certain number of people that I can really have a deep conversation, make a good connection, and when I do follow up, they'll take my call. Because what you really want to do is you want quality, not always quantity. I think today, I was listening to Michael J. Mayer, who wrote the 7 Levels of Communication, is you can build a very dynamic business with only 200 people in your database versus trying to have 3,000 or 4,000. And I think it's the quality of the relationship versus the actual quantity. Once you do your research, you want to plan your self-introduction. So you want to say your name, your pitch, your name. So like, for example, if I was going to a business meeting, I would say, I'm Arnell Tanyag, your sounding board for your business. Your name is. So I was thinking about working this. I'd say, and I have a new one. I said, I am Arnell Tanyag, your sounding board for business owners who want to grow $1 million in revenue. Your name is. Because what you want to do on your pitch, you want to do something that creates a generous curiosity. And if they ask you what that means, that tells you they're interested in having a conversation. I love what Susan Rowan said about the self-introduction. It's really designed to help people who are shy create a conversation so the other person go, oh, what does that mean? So like I went to a networking event, it was a chamber event, and I told somebody, I'm Arnell Tanyag, your sounding board for businesses, for your business, and your name is, and the guy says, my name is Jared. I said, Jared, what are you? I'm electrical contractor. And he says, what do you mean the sounding board? Well, a lot of business owners, they have a lot of stuff in their head, and they like to sit down in a room with somebody to talk about what's going on in their business, how to grow, how to staff, how to actually figure out what's the best thing to do. And they don't mind paying somebody to actually sit there and understand their business, guide them through the process, get them to slow down and think, look at other avenues. And the guy goes, do you work with electricians or contractors? Oh yeah, I got a couple of them. He goes, oh my God, here's my card. And the amazing thing about that, what happened to me is because I was able to use the self-introduction that Susan Rowan had suggested. And when you think of your pitch is something interesting to the audience that creates curiosity. Like if I was going to a funeral, right, and somebody goes, "Oh, you know," who you say, you know, and I'm talking about, "Oh, I'm Arnell. I am the best friend." I said I'm going to a funeral, and the person who has passed away is my high school's friend's mother. Oh, I am I would say I am Arnell Tanyag. I am the high school friend's mother. I'm the high school. I would say something like this. I am the high school. I'd say something like, you know, I'm the. And I say, sometimes you have to really think about it. It's not really easy. But think of your pitch. Like if I'm, you know, I'm going to this funeral and somebody says, "What? Oh, I am Arnell Tanyag. You know, I am Arnell Tanyag. I knew the mother through her son because we were close friends in high school. Your name is." Oh, so you know da. So you know, you have to figure out something that makes it unique. That is creates curiosity. This takes a little bit of work, but you know, but I think it's very powerful because when you go into a networking event, and if it's a social event, it's a professional event, a workshop, if you can tailor your pitch related to the event and what creates curiosity, then what happens is people ask you and then gives you an opportunity to talk with that person. The other thing about do your research and prepare and plan your small talk topics. So read a local or national newspaper related to the event. Look on the website. Look at the market material. Read People magazine or sports pages. If you go to an event, there's a lot of men. Every man likes, you know, look at this season. They like to play sports, football. You need to just know enough to ask questions, but not enough to be. You don't have to be an expert. Read People magazine. That usually has trends. You know, like, you know, and I watch local trends. Like, you know, how long do you think well, here's another one. How long do you think government shutdown will last? Like last year, the biggest thing last year was Virginia Tech was beaten by Old Dominion. You know, the football. So just look up conversation starters. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be able to create the conversations so it just gets people talking. Strategy 2 is prepare yourself to win. So what that basically means is how do you win? So number 1 is you conduct a power pose before your event. So what I always tell people, like before I do an event, I smile, you know, I stand up, I smile, and I give a power pose. In this slide, there's a link to Power Pose by Amy Cuddy. It talks about how to give a power pose, what it does. And the next slide is Wonder Woman. A power pose, you're standing up and being a Wonder Woman, you smile. And when you do a power pose, it really creates a physiological response that you feel powerful. And when you smile, it creates that energy of, you know, joy. It just makes you relax. And you smile and you have that power pose. I mean, it's powerful. So what I recommend people do is you recite an affirmation in the morning ritual for the event. You say, you know, you stand up, you smile, you do a power pose and say, I'm smiling, I'm charming, I'm courageous, I'm upbeat, passionate, a ball of energy. I'm a great listener, because they always say to be really good at working a room, you have to be a great listener because you're listening for clues. I'm great at making conversations. See, that's another. I'm great at making conversations. I'm genuine and authentic. What I say brings tremendous value. I'm a generous giver and a precious achiever. If you're a fast talker, you can say, I am a slow talker. So you say that, and then you go to the thing is, you know, that's your affirmation in the beginning. So you say that in the beginning. So say you go into a worker room today is Monday, right? And you're going to work a room on Tuesday in the evening. Well, in the morning of Tuesday morning, you get up, you say this affirmation. And then before the event, you get to the event a little bit early, maybe 30 minutes early. You go in the bathroom, or you go in your car, or you go in the parking lot. You say the same thing. You go, I'm smiling, I'm charming, I'm courageous, I'm upbeat, passionate, and ball of energy. I'm great. I am great. I am great in making conversation. I'm genuine. Slow down, buddy. You can't be doing this. So I'm genuine. Hold on. Why is it doing this thing? So you you do this things because the goal and objective is you great, genuine, and then I clap my hands together for 3 or 4 times, shake it out, put a big smile on my face, and let's do this. What that does, it creates the high level of energy. This incantation, what it does is it's an affirmation 100x. And I do this when I do speaking events. I do this when I do network events because when I want to go in there the best possible person I can be. Because I have a vision, I have a plan, I have a mission. But how do I become the best possible person? Well, this is a ritual that I create before I go to a network event, before I speak, because I want to be the best. I'm not the best all the time. I may have a bad day and I'm not doing really well, but when I get into my networking phase or my speaking phase, I have this incantation. I get in there and I'll tell you what's powerful. I mean, people know my energy's up. It's exciting. Then once I'm done with the event, energy's down. I'm good. But you want to have this because you want to be the best you can when you're working a room. You want to be excited. You want to be positive. You want the thing moving in your favor. Strategies 2 is, we talked about prepare yourself. Bring an item that makes you stand out in the crowd. Men wear a golf or fishing tie. I've seen people do that. A nice lapel pin. People might ask you. A nice Rolex watch. A bow tie. Some people wear bow tie. People know when I go out in the public, I wear suspenders. That's my calling. Wear a blinking name tag. I've seen people have a blinking name tag. It pops. Blink, 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 blink. People, hey, where'd you get that? Women, hand chain, headpiece, brooch, scarf, and special purse. When people know you go out and work a room, you're going to have these same accessories that stand out. And when people know that, it gives them a reason to come to you or ask you. It just makes it easier for you to be approachable or remembered. Strategy 3 is when you work in a room. Here's a couple of things I did when I was a B&I director. I was shy. I was nervous. So I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to work a room together. So what I did is I call up, a couple of B&I members who are introverts and extroverts. We work in pairs or groups. We go to the event together. We talk about, hey, let's go ahead and work to groups of 2, and we work the room together. So we'd go in groups of 2, and if I was an introvert, I would partner with an extrovert, and then we'd work the room. We'd introduce people to each other, vice versa. I had that strategy for many years. I had an account executive with the Chamber of Commerce who was an extrovert, and I was the B&I director, and I'd bring him people, he'd bring me people, he'd introduce me people, I'd introduce him people at events. It was great, Another thing about working a room is if you know somebody who's actually part of that room, they're actually involved or actually active, they actually know people in there, and they're the host or the organizer, ask that person to introduce you. Or if you're going to an event you don't know, call somebody you know who is an extrovert and have them go with you, and they'll introduce you. So utilize your resources of people who already go there, people you know. Because one of the things about working a room, it's better to work a room in pairs than to work by yourself. And then another strategy I've seen is at the room or event, find someone you know and connect with them and start a conversation with and go. So like I go to events and I don't know it. I don't think I called a couple people that can't come with. I go to something. The first person I see, I go talk to them, hang out with them, go introduce them, have them introduce me, and then go there, vice versa. Because sometimes it's easier to find people you know than trying to create people you don't know. Another strategy 3 for working a room is observe the room and look for wallflowers or people clinching the drink and speak to them. You'll find out there are people out there who hate to network, who hate to work a room, but they're required by their company or by their position to be there. So what typically they'll do is they'll hang out outside the crowd, or they're on the wall just looking around, staring, or they'll hang out actually at the drink table or the food table, and they're clenching their drink or they're just eating. You'd be surprised because remember, a lot of successful people are not extroverts. A lot of successful people are introverts. So sometimes they have to go. They have to go to these events. I remember one story somebody told me that Dr. Ivan Miser is an introvert. So a lot of times what he'll do is he'll just go do his thing. So he has to have somebody who take him, hang with him like a wingman or wingwoman and walk him around and introduce people. If not, he would just go get a drink, talk to 2 people and sit down. He's got to get people to introduce him. So the interesting thing about this whole belief is that what you're looking for people you can connect with, because if they're in an awkward situation as a wallflower or clinching a drink, that's a great opportunity they'll talk to you, because no one's talking to them. And if you see this picture here, is people go, I wish I was in that group talking to that person. Please somebody talk to me. And they're very thankful they are. And you'd be surprised, some of the most successful people don't work rooms. They have to be in the room. So sometimes if you're out there making the opportunity to connect with them, you could probably develop a lifetime friend and also a business relationship that's very profitable. Strategy 3 about working a room is be a host or a greeter at an event if you can. A lot of times, a lot of organizations and companies have events, but they don't have anybody to help. Ask them if you can be a host or greeter. Ask them, can you call the event coordinator, see if you can volunteer, host or greeter. If not, be an unofficial host or greeter at an event. So what you do is you meet a couple people, you meet at the event, and then you meet new people, make connections with them, keep connecting. When I was the B&I director and I used to work the chamber, I'd go to events by myself, bring some B&I members. And some events I'd go consistently, people know. And then when I met several people who could be good introductions for other people, I'd go meet them at an event there the first time, introducing somebody I've seen for a couple months. Kept doing it. And what I ended up becoming, people knew I was a great connector. I created great word of mouth. People made some contacts. And those people would actually come and connect me too. So it was a win-win. So either you can be an official host or greeter, or unofficial. It's just how you work the room by connecting and greeting. I like the fact if you're a host and greeter, because you can meet and shake hands with everybody, and that allows you to connect with them, and you can come back and connect with them during the event. After the event, then what they call is follow. You have to do a follow-up, and if they say follow-up is in the fortune. So when you do the follow-up, is you need to follow up with Slide Dial. It's SLYDIA. It's an app that can be either free or purchased. I purchased the actual paid version. And what Slide Dial does is that it calls people directly to their voicemail. So it drops in their voicemail. And it only works for cell phones or voice over IP type of phones. So the follow-up is you Slide Dial, then you email and text. And then send a power note. So say, for example, I met you the following day, I would Slide Dial you. I send you an email or a text, probably more of a text than a power note. And I have links here to an app, a Slide Dial you can get. And then Power Note is a specific note that's written to capture people to call you right back. And that is written by Michael J. Mann of 7 Levels of Communication. Talks about how you can write notes to get people to call you. And here's an example of how, what I say, if I send a text, say, hey, Bob, thanks for connecting me. I really like you and what you do. Let's connect for some coffee next week or the week after. You send that out. You slide. You can Slide Dial, say that, send the text, send a power note, and what you'll find out is you're showing interest in that person, genuine interest, and 9 out of 10 they usually call you back, because not many people do that. Not many people do. I don't even get that from people. And after the event is have a conversation on one-to-one, become friends, and become a giver by being portraying they call it one or more 6 profiles giving. And Michael Mayer talks about give first. So how do you give first? So you look at, there's 6 profiles of giving you. Experts share knowledge. Coaches teach a skill. Mentors give advice. Connectors make introductions. Extra miles show up early, late, volunteer for extra work. Helpers provide hands-on tasks and emotion. So what this basically means is when you meet with people, figure out how to be a giver first. Give first. And if you can give first that wows the person, then 9 out of 10, they will be surprised, because not many people give first. Most people want something first. You know what I mean? So if you meet with them in a one-to-one, figure out how to help them, and you give first, and increases the chances of developing and winning that relationship. Then the next thing you do is you want to schedule what we call a communication plan. This is how do you keep in touch with people. So once you have a one-to-one, invite them to an event, workshop benefits them, schedule one-to-one coffee, see how they help. Call them out, how you can help them out by using 6 profiles giving, send another power note, connect with the person on Facebook and LinkedIn, and just keep in a relationship with them. You want to stay more in the influencing, not just informing, because the goal and objective is how to keep in touch with them if they want to. If they don't want to, then they'll tell you. But if you ask and they say, hey, let's keep in touch, I'm going to invite you to activities and events, why not? Strategy 5 is resources. One of the best books that I've read, and this came, I read this book maybe 7, 8 years ago, and I read it recently last year to really fine tune it. It's How to Work a Room: The Ultimate Guide to Making Lasting Connections in Person and Online by Susan Rowan. She's the mingling maven, the expert on how to work a room. She talks about how to work a room in the elevator. Talks about how to work a room fundraiser. It's a pretty awesome book. I even attached a link to YouTube. She has an awesome channel. You can watch that. You can't beat that. I'd recommend that, because when you're building a networking business, you got to go and work a room. And then what do you do with the people? Then after you work a room is how do you develop the relationships and maintain it? Strategy 5 is resources. Read the book 7 Levels of Communication. And so what that means is this book is how to communicate a communication plan. Once you have worked a room and have developed those relationships, this is how you communicate with them. So interesting thing is I'm one of the certified referral trainers for Michael J. Mayer across the country. There's like less than 50 of us across the country. So I'm certified to train on this, and he has the best follow-up system, because his follow system is not marketing, it's communication to relationships. And then I attached a podcast, go to referralspodcast.com. I'd highly recommend you listen to it, because he does talk about referrals, and what his process and referrals are. And the last thing is practice, practice, practice. I recommend that you listen to this PowerPoint presentation, listen often, and you practice. I love the introduction. I love what you say in your introduction, and study that. I would implement some type of follow-up process afterwards, and then how to communicate. I'd read the books and stuff like that. And then the other, and here's this is just a PowerPoint. I usually ask people that give you mass value so I can help it further. And usually after the presentation, somebody gives me a card to give them the notes, but then I recommend if you want to go to some of the events and stuff like that. But here's the interesting thing about this whole process is, at the end of the day, how to work a room, go from wallflower to Rainmaker, is because sometimes the best way to meet influential people is go where they're at. But if you don't know how to work a room and develop that relationship, then the chances of you to maintain it, or the chances of you to grow it, is failing. But if you can work a room, then the next thing is how to develop it. And that's why I picked those 2 resources. So again, thanks for listening to this. I hope this is very helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And thanks again for listening.